Hey, how you doing, guys? I decided to just pop up on social media so that I can share with you guys a recent situation and my thoughts. This particular situation or scenario, no set confidentiality or contractual agreement in order to maintain confidentiality. Therefore, I'm just sharing it, the experience as a life lesson. So I literally was just minding my own life and got a text from someone who will remain nameless, but consideration of just breaking up, and essentially was saying they broke up with the person, the other person was attacking them online, and so they're trying to get to contact all of their people, so that their people will essentially block the person. And then I paused and I said, what does your situation have to do with me? I establish boundaries. See, I'm a relational clinician, but then just Norja in general, Dr. Cunningham minds her own life. And so if y'all were unable to break up and to maintain an amicable situation after breaking up, that has nothing to do with me. So y'all gonna have to work on that. I'm not getting involved in this situation. If y'all are going back and forth and spatting on social media, then somebody just stop. And then that can look very childish for people who can't handle emotionally, even when they are upset. The ability to have strong emotions, to verbalize them and or to feel them and experience them, and also to have a level of control or manage those emotions, and in turn to vocalize what's happening, or to sit with those feelings, is emotional intelligence, and what I also would say is emotional maturity. Therefore, I don't get in the middle of the situation. What does your breakup have to do with me? But then I can utilize the information or the experience, now that you know, loop me into a situation, in order to share something on social media with consideration of relationships. But I'm telling you, I focus on families, y'all, through my coaching and consulting business. I've worked with couples, but the majority of my work, and I prefer the work of providing support for parents to co-parent. Say, for example, if a divorce happens and they've already gone through the process of a divorce, they meet with their own therapist in order to deal with the divorce itself, because divorce actually can be traumatizing, especially if there was like infidelity and all these other factors. But and there's a level of grief. But what I focus on is how can the parents still parent the children and amicably parent and get along for the sake of the children living in two households when they once lived under one roof. But what I said was, y'all going back and forth online with mess, it's just childish. Now, excuse me if that was very direct, but I was just like, just stop, because people are expressing what they're expressing in their feelings and not necessarily looking at the situation objectively. Now, I understand when a breakup happens, and especially if a breakup after many years of being together, whatever the situation was, because I don't know the details of the situation, and I didn't ask purposefully, because it's none of my business, as far as what was going on with them. But I was looped in just to block somebody who never did anything wrong to me. Do you understand what I'm saying? Do you understand how that's like? I am not required to block somebody to show my loyalty to you, because your life is your life. And everybody in the situation, from what I gathered from the birthdays and looking at, seeing at least one gray hair, or, having a sense of age, everybody's definitely over the age of majority and grown. We're not talking about 25, 30 years. 35 plus, probably 40 plus years old. People gotta make grown moves, especially when you're in grown relationships. If you're in relationships and you're cohabitating, that's a grown move. Therefore, to uncouple should be handled just as grown as you were grown to couple and cohabitate, from my perspective. But hey, I'm just, Dr. Cunningham, who just in Norgia, because a lot of times these are people who are very close to me, meaning like, I'm not going to say exactly who. But ultimately what I'm saying is how situations are handled, even if you don't like how the situation is ending, matters. I would not ever go online and spew anything about a relationship, an intimate relationship, if it's not going well. Now, again, none of these people, and I didn't say any names, are clients. If I am signing off on a dotted line with consideration of confidentiality, I'll maintain confidentiality, but at the same time, I like to teach lessons with consideration of life. So my prayer is that people are able to learn from their relationships, even if they don't end the way you had hoped. Now, everybody, the majority of people, I would say, when they're in relationships, are hoping that the relationships will continue for the duration of their lives, or at least a very long-term relationship, especially when you cohabitate. But stuff happens. But how we utilize social media, as well as our personal connections with other people, matters. So you're utilizing people in order to try to make a point that ultimately, really, and I'm not utilizing, terminology that's clinical, but to make petty moves to try to prove that you're hurt and you want the other person to hurt like they are hurting you is not creating a situation for healing. It's just two people whom are hurt in their feelings who require space and time in order to reconvene to discuss, if they decide to discuss, how to redefine their connection. And I think that's what people don't realize, is that even if a romantic relationship didn't work, it doesn't mean that it's impossible for people to redefine the relationship. Even if they decide they no longer want to spend time with each other nor speak to each other, but to have a conversation to define the ending of a chapter actually allows for smoother beginnings of new chapters. So, life lessons with Dr. Cunningham. Don't try to reel me into your situation, because I'm not trying to get in the middle of the situation. Like, I'm minding my life and you sending me texts telling me to block other people. Well, my loyalty is never going to be based on making petty moves that has to do with between two adults who should handle their own situation. And obviously, because y'all know the entire story, I only know a portion of the story. But I'm certain that each person had blame with consideration of what worked well and the reason why they actually broke up ultimately. Huh? Can somebody say amen? Okay. Y'all have an excellent day. Happy Self-Care Saturday. Boundaries are important. I'm not blocking anybody for you. No.